These are my babies. So we have our two Howick frame of 3200s and then our 7800. Our two 3200s are gonna be in 350S and 550S. Our 7800 is gonna be your 600, 800, and 1000S. Soon we'll have 1200 and 1400 as well, going from 54 mil all the way to 97 mil. So this is where we get all of our floor joists, our ceiling systems, roof systems. Right now, we produce everything with a crew of 5 guys. 5 fabricators and 3 drafters. We are expecting to double the size of our crew pretty soon here. Off of our math, we think that we need about 40 people in production to be able to assemble the panels as fast as the machines can manufacture them.
Okay, you do supply them panelised?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say 95% of the studs that are going out of here are panelised.
Michael,
Cindy.
thank you for sharing your time with us. Let's start with you. Just tell us about yourself.
So my name is Michael Ferlaino. I am the co-founder for All Metal Framing and Archmade Fabrication. All Metal Framing is our CFS steel framing company. We manufacture everything from ADUs, single family, multi-story single family, multifamily, commercial, and now we're starting into the hotel space. Everything AMF makes is steel framing or steel framing related. Archmade Fabrication, think welding, structural fabrication, architectural fabrication, and machining.
So you're a GC go-to as far as all metal.
Correct. We joke around quite often that framing is framing is framing, whether it's a shed, a doghouse, or 400,000 square feet. Right. So that way they're able to get their entire package from one source. It also makes it so I'm able to control a lot of the variables, especially since the steel framing is all automated, made by robots, and all of the HSS is all 100% made by hand. So when we're able to control both the variables here in shop, we know that we're not going to have any kind of weird alignment issues on site.
Tell us a little bit more about your background and sort of the motivation to start the company.
My business partner, Adam, and I were both in the off-roading club when we were in college. That was actually how we met. We both drove Toyotas.
Right.
And if you know anything about the off-roading community, everybody is broken up into their little segments. So if you own a Jeep, then you don't talk to people that don't own Jeeps. You only talk to Jeep owners. And if you own a Toyota, you only talk to Toyota people. And that was how we met. The motivation for starting the company originally was that we were tired of paying people to weld on our vehicles. We wanted our own side steps. We wanted to make our own components, and we were getting really annoyed at paying these shops hundreds of dollars an hour to do simple little welds for things that we broke on a trail.
Okay.
And so he and I had this decision. He was going, after he finished university, he decided to go and go to welding school and learn the trade. When I had finished, I had a business degree. And so I was like, all right, guys, like, what do you think about kind of starting our own thing? That's how we started the welding shop. Step one of the welding shop was we realized very quickly that we needed CNC capabilities. You can't be a company in the modern day and not have CNC. So that's why we built our plasma table. And that plasma table was how we tooled up the shop. So for example, when we first started building the frame, we ended up buying our first welder because we needed a welder to weld the frame together. Once we got the frame put together, we started doing the bed in it and we realized, oh no, we need a brake press so we can make a water table. So that's when we built that brake press. Our introduction to CNC machining was because I needed to modify the gantry and build a plasma torch holder. That was the introduction to CNC. The plasma table's main product ended up being base plates, gusset plates, and web stiffeners for I-beams. So that made it so we essentially were the only small shop in Garden Grove that had our own ability to plate flame cut or to plasma cut.
Right.
That is what opened the door to structural steel for us.
Right.
Because we could be more cost effective because we didn't have a crazy amount of overhead and we could do it all in-house. As we were building that business, we were approached by a couple of builders that had known about CFS, ironically from Australia and New Zealand. And they were the ones that were like, hey, you're already doing all this steel work for us. We already trust you. We already have the relationship. What do you think about steel framing? And at that point in time, we didn't know anything about steel framing other than the fact that it existed as an industry. We didn't know anything about framing. We didn't know anything about steel studs, how cold forming worked, roll formers, any of it. But we had found success. So because we had found success in the structural and architectural steel world, and we had done everything on a how hard can it be mentality, we decided with the roll formers that it would be interesting to get into, and we would only continue as far as we could before we hit a major roadblock.
Okay.
Our assumption was that it was going to be a funding issue or a licensing issue or a customer issue, but we're like, let's just keep going. Let's see what happens. And ultimately, that logic is what led us to getting the first 3200s. Our knowledge was in steel and in machinery, and no knowledge in framing. Even when the first 3200 showed up here, we still had no knowledge in framing. When I go back and listen to my videos with Hannah at Struxoft teaching me how to use MWF, I was making jokes to her at the time because she would say, this is how you add a jack stud. And I'd go, okay, that's awesome. What's a jack stud? This is where your cripples go. And I'd go, okay, cool, that's awesome. And what's the use case for a cripple again? And I kept having to ask her while she's trying to teach me the software, I'm asking her, this is phenomenal. Why do I need to know this? Where does this apply? When we went to actually build our first house, really ironically, it was my business partner and I were sitting in my office at the time. We had MWF and Revit open on one screen, and we had YouTube open up on the second screen, teaching us how to read plan sets and and how to frame a house. Oh because ultimately, by drawing the model, we're needing to put the framing right where it needs to go before it can go into production. So we quite literally learned framing via YouTube. Probably one of the complete opposite paths as most of the people that have roll formers that start as framers and then have a really interesting time learning machinery and computers. For us, we started with the machinery and computer knowledge and then had to learn how to frame. Because you have to remember, the company's philosophy has always been metal is metal is metal. Whether it's a medical part that we're CNC machining, whether it's railings for a house or a commercial building or a dumpster enclosure or steel framing, steel is steel is steel. So yeah, let's do it.
Tell us about the sectors in the industry that you're involved in. You've got residential, you're in commercial as well.
So we started with ADUs. Early on, what our logic was that if we were to make a fatal error on an ADU in the framing portion, if we had to remake the ADU for whatever reason, it wouldn't bankrupt us. So the first 25, 30 structures we built were ADUs. And we were just knocking them out as fast as we could. Once we kind of figured out what we were doing and how everything worked and kind of really perfected the dynamic with our structural engineers, that's when we then broke into residential, and then luxury residential, and then multifamily. And so essentially the goal being that we wanted to start with as small of a job as possible, and then over time work up to bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, knowing that ultimately that's where we need to be. But we needed to get there our own way. Again, being one of the only framing companies that didn't start with a framing knowledge meant that we kind of had to walk, or we had to crawl before we could run, you know?
But you've crawled and run pretty fast.
We have.
In the last, 5 years?
Yep, in 5 years' time.
That's very short time frame to learn everything. I mean, when you're talking about the machines and also the products that you're running, I would think that you're an engineer.
I went to college for business, and I'll be sitting in meetings with a fleet of engineers, and I'm the youngest person sitting on that call. And I'm the one that's teaching everybody what they need to be doing. And these are all people that have their PE stamp or their SE stamp. These are the professionals. They're the ones that are ultimately the liability that it's going under this. They're the ones that are stamping and accepting that. And in this conference room that we're currently sitting in, I'll put details up on that TV, and we'll be going in here and going detail by detail, line by line, teaching them how to actually do steel framing. Because as you know, panelised steel framing and traditional site-built steel framing, it is slightly different engineering and it's slightly different use cases. And that's the part that we're essentially having to teach people.
Okay. So you just supply steel framing and the GCs do the installations.
Correct.
How do you fill your pipeline? Do they come to you? Do you go out there? Do you have to educate the market?
So we do a little bit of educating the market.
Yep.
The biggest group that we've had to help educate's ironically been the building department, just so they're used to starting to be able to see steel framing used in residential, because traditionally it's not. But the overwhelming amount of our business is coming from word of mouth from the client. And the big reason for that is due to a lot of the fires that we've had here in Southern California. People are looking for a way to build Class A, and they're trying to do it as cost effectively as possible and as fast as possible. A big issue that most people aren't talking about is that when everybody's houses burned down in the Palisades fire and in the fires in Altadena, their insurance companies only gave them, I believe it's up to 2 years to actually rebuild their houses. So these people right now currently are living in subsidized housing through the insurance companies. At the end of this year, that goes away. So when that day comes, these people are going to be in a position where they're having to pay full rent to live somewhere else. And then they're also having to fund the construction on a new building in one of the most expensive markets in the United States to build in. So what people are really starting to come to us for are the fact that it's remaining Class A.
Yes.
And then secondary is the speed of construction and the efficiency of construction. Because like, for example, in Altadena, Altadena is a very community forward area. It's all kind of the salt of the earth people. These are the movers and shakers, the workers for a lot of Los Angeles. The Palisades are kind of set back on a hill far away from the movers and shakers and workers of Los Angeles, which means building in the Palisades is incredibly expensive and incredibly time consuming because everybody's having to travel to get there. By going with panelised steel framing, we're taking what was months of framing time and condensing that down to a week or less. Getting these structures built incredibly fast and then traditionally under budget, which is really the big thing.
Yeah.
The fact that we can walk into a project, look you straight in the eyes and say down to the ounce how much your house is going to weigh and down to a 5 count of how many screws are going in the entire structure is a level of certainty that virtually no one else can compete with.
And the GCs love that.
And the GCs love that.
That's great.
And the fact that we're right here. I mean, we're 25 miles away from Altadena and 35 miles away from the Palisades.
Yeah.
So whatever you need, I can produce here. I can have it to the job site same day. And God forbid there's an issue, or God forbid the customer decides that they want to change a window or move a door or what have you. I'll just make another panel. It's something that's not a big issue, where a lot of the people that are trying to cut corners, they're ordering their steel framing from India or China. But now you have a 6-week time on a boat for it to get here. So if something is wrong or if something needs an adjustment or anything, 6 weeks every single time. Where for here, we can almost do same day. Same day, if not next day, being more realistic.
Can I backtrack and just get you to quickly explain what Class A is?
So a Class A fire structure is just a building that's made out of fire-resistant materials. So steel framing as it by itself is not does not equal a Class A building. The steel framing either has to be wrapped in sheet metal, magnesium oxide board or MgO, or fiber reinforced concrete or a product like Sureboard. When it's married with those other materials, now you have a structure envelope that is naturally non-flammable, which is what people are looking for. That's what gives you that Class A. And then Class B, Class C. Class C is this thing's made with gasoline, fire, and toothpicks, essentially. And that bad boy will burn like that.
So Class A is the standard right now for building homes. Okay.
Well, it's not the standard. Class B and Class C are the actual normal standard. That's what we're working on. That's what we're changing. Because you have to remember, steel framing, at least in the United States, is not traditionally used for residential. That's why we've had to work with the building departments. Because at least the way that it works in California is commercial versus residential inspectors are normally 2 different sets of inspectors.
Okay.
And the commercial inspectors are very specialized. The residential inspectors are a lot more, you'll have one guy for the entire building.
Right.
Well, that one guy hasn't been on a lot of commercial job sites, so he's not used to seeing steel framing.
So do you see an uptake in building with cold form steel? So ever since the natural disasters?
For our homeowners, their main reason why they're looking into CFS, it's for insurance reasons. It's because their home just burned down, and that's the worst thing that you could go through. They don't want to go through that again.
Yes.
So for them, that's why. That's why we are seeing a really big push on that side. On the architect side, the reason why we're starting to see a really big push from the architects is because I'm able to offer them something that nobody else is. We explain, especially with our architects, we explain that our framing process is not a traditional framing process. Instead, you need to liken it to graphic design. What you need to do is understand that we're making a model, and that model is an exact replica of what we're going to be making on the roll formers, which means while we have that model, you can audit it, you can change it, you can modify it. But as an architect, if you give me a Revit model to be my source code, then I am using your exact artwork to frame the house.
Yeah.
So that way I can look you in the eyes and guarantee you that all of the proportions are going to be the way that you designed them in that Revit model, because that is my source code. We're not moving a wall. We're not going to move a door in that file. We'll only add the framing to it. So architects love that because we're able to actually take what their vision was and make that in real life.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like graphic design, if you misspell something on your banner and we go to print it, then that misspelling is going to be on the banner. Just like in our framing, if you make a detailed issue on the framing model, that issue will be there in production and you will own it.
Yeah.
So that's why we like the graphic design analogy, because a lot of people seem to understand that.
That's great. Talk about roll forming and how you explore and what the process was and how you landed on Howick.
So roll forming was interesting because that was kind of a new frontier for us. Our entire background was in the CNC plasma table and CNC vertical machine centers. And so we knew milling and we knew plasma cutting, and those are both a form of manufacturing or fabrication that leads to very custom products. Everything that comes off of my mills is different than the previous thing that came off. And on the plasma table, we're doing everything from signage to bracketry.
Right.
So all of that is always unique for everything coming off the table. The roll formers, it's a paradigm shift. Because now we went from needing this level of flexibility in whatever part to the opposite of flexibility.
Yep.
We needed a guarantee that on the first day that we were making a stud, and 10 years from now when we're still making studs, that if you could put those side by side, they would interact with each other in a panel as if they came off back to back from the same coil.
Great way of putting it. Yep.
It was a complete paradigm shift. So everybody that we were working with early on that was pushing us to get into roll forming was wanting us to go with a competitor.
Yeah.
Ironically, the company that was pushing us was connected directly to a competitor and had a competitor's board member sitting on their board, which you can imagine how that upset some people when we decided to go with Howick, because that wasn't very appreciated. At the time, you have to understand, I was 25 years old. We were doing some research onto the machinery, and I was doing just some basic Google searching on roll formers, and essentially one of the Howick ads popped up, which, good job, Cindy.
Thank you.
You got those keywords good. SEO is proper at Howick.
Good. Thank you.
And so the SEO popped up, and I ended up reaching out and was just saying, hey, I'm looking for some information. None of the competitors took us seriously. The second they asked me how old I was or heard the sound of my voice.
Asked for your age.
Oh, yeah.
That is not all.
Howick did not.
No.
JD did not. Howick did not. JD just said, what do you want? What are you trying to do?
Yeah.
And I told him I'm trying to go residential. And he goes, oh, okay. So if you're doing residential, these are the sizes you need. So this is what I recommend to you. So that's how we got those sizes.
Whoa.
He answered the phone and answered all of my questions almost immediately. And then, not being pushy on the sales side at all, was like, hey, do you want to go to a factory that has Howick? I said, yes, please. They took me down to technically our competition, but our really good friends. They took me into their factory. They showed me how everything worked. They showed me their data workflow. They kind of showed me all the secret recipes. And then in the back, I had decided that the one question I was going to ask every factory owner was for the parts list. I wanted to see their parts list, and I wanted to see their parts storage area. Because if the thing breaks a lot, then you're going to have a lot of spare parts. And if it doesn't, you won't. When we went to one of the competitors' factories, they showed me 2 machines that had been completely ripped down and were used for spare parts, and an entire room about the size of a Connex box filled with everything from bearings to oil sensors to the actual rollers themselves, and all of which were required to be spares. When we went to the local Howick company, they laughed and made a joke about, well, I guess we did have to replace the shear blade, but nah, that was after 1 million linear feet, which for the uninitiated is a little over a year's production if you're running all day, every day.
Yeah.
And so essentially it was between JD and this other factory was the reason why we chose Howick. And it was the greatest decision that we've made. We're now fortunate enough that we're friends with a lot of roll forming facilities that are both using Howick and the competitors' machines. And we see the differences side by side. You can literally close your eyes when you're standing next to the machines and listen to them run. You can hear the difference.
That is
there, and it is solid.
Yeah.
It is a huge difference. I mean, even one of them whose names ends in CAD, when their shears go off, it is a violent punch. You hear the entire thing. It sounds like metal is ripping. When my machines punch, it's a very clean, You hear the sound of the hydraulics over the sound of the actual energy punching and hitting the stud.
Right.
And those efficiencies are what led to the machines then being more efficient, which then leads to them running longer for us without having downtime, which is ultimately the most important thing.
Oh my gosh. You've got a small team. You hope to grow it. Is there any comments that you'd like to make on just how things work? I mean, ultimately with the machines, of course, you need people to run it, etc. So
one of the things that's kind of been interesting is that we're not able to use a normal kind of manufacturing protocol with our team. The main reason why is because in a traditional setting, you would want to sit down and you give everybody, this is your designated role, this is what you do, and you would train them really hard on their role.
Yeah.
For us, we haven't been able to do that because we don't know. The joke has always been, we don't know what we don't know. We're figuring this out together as a group.
Yeah.
Right now, we run a crew of 5 guys.
Yeah.
Every time one of the machines breaks down, all 5 of my guys will stop and go and work on the solution. Our logic with this is that when we do inevitably grow, each one of these 5 guys is now going to run their own team.
Yes.
So then if the machine jams, they all know how to unjam it.
Yes.
If the print heads are clogged, they know how to fix it. If there's a hydraulic issue, they know because they've seen it, they've done it, they've touched it. They know. So then when we grow into that larger staff, it'll make training a lot easier because we are expecting it to be some pretty exponential growth here soon.
So you're keeping it really fluid, so everybody gets to learn, everybody gets the knowledge. And
we're very fluid, very laissez-faire, and at the moment, we don't use a very strong, I would say like the militaristic structure that you normally see in construction. The main reason being, I don't think I know everything. I don't think I have all the answers. The machines constantly, every time I'm like, haha, I am all that is man. I know everything. Every time that happens, the machine goes, oh yeah?
Yeah. I'll show you this.
Right? I'm going to learn you a thing or two today.
I love it. I love it.
And so because of that, we don't want a structure where people aren't, if they see something, we joke around, we're like TSA, see something, say something. If you can think of a better way to do it, tell me. There's no such thing as a stupid question around here, and there's no such thing as a stupid comment because we're all trying to learn. As the company grows, as we get bigger, of course, that atmosphere is probably going to go away and that culture is going to become a little bit more rigid and we'll start falling into systems. But right now, we feel that if we were to do that, that would be how we would get certain failure.
Yeah.
Especially with the failure rate in this industry.
Yeah.
A lot of people dive in thinking it's easy. They think they can just hire a team of people and go and walk away.
Print money.
That is not the case. This is not Chick-fil-A.
No
one is going to come here and teach you how to run it.
Great stuff.
Or standard franchise restaurant of choice.
No, I love that approach.
We always laugh about it because we're like getting into the roll forming, like you're getting into a brand. This is so close to a franchised business if you really think about it. Because it's like we're getting the engineering standards from Howick. We're getting the all documentation from Howick.
Yeah.
Our ICC license in partnership with Howick.
Yeah.
Everything has Howick's name on it. except the product we're putting out the door.
Yeah.
At the end. We've joked around internally that it's almost like franchise light.
Let's close off with talking about growth and where you see the company going from here.
Depending on how you look at things, we are very fortunate. We have grown business 40% year over year since we started. Every year we've grown by a minimum of 40%. This year, I've already manufactured more framing than I did all of last year combined. My last steel order that came in was 2 times greater than the biggest steel orders that we've ever had. And this week alone, we're bringing in 100,000 pounds. To put things in a perspective, our first year that we were in production, I don't think I brought in 40,000 pounds worth of coil all year long.
Amazing.
And that included the setup of the machines and all of the certifications for ICC and all of the material we pretty much had to waste and throw away. Barely 40,000 pounds. This year, my last PO was 100,000 pounds. My guys cleared that in less than a month. And on Wednesday, I have another 100,000 pounds showing up. So our production has been skyrocketing. We have a project that if everything goes to plan at the end of this year, the steel requirement is 2.8 million pounds.
Holy moly.
For one project that we fully expect to deliver inside of 3 months, all the manufacturing for. And that will be for a 7-story project down in Southern California, close to San Diego area.
Do you
San
need to
Diego
upscale
region.
for that one?
We believe that we'll be able to produce that out of this facility,
Right.
but we will not be able to do anything else at the same time. And so with that, we've actually started working with some of the local factories that have Howick roll formers, so we can kind of all work together and all kind of punch above our belt together.
I love that.
The one interesting thing about this industry that I'm constantly telling people about is that on the welding, fabrication, and machine shop side, people will tell you false things. I can go to another factory right now that's welding and go and ask them, how do you guys get your weld so good? And they'll look me in the eyes and say, we spray everything with WD-40 first. And knowing that that's going to ruin every weld. People will mess with you. On the machining side, they'll tell you the wrong teeth and they'll tell you the wrong end mills to use, and they'll mess with you because everyone's fighting. You can only eat what you kill. And if we're all hunting in the same field together, then if they're helping me, then I'm going to take something from them.
Yep.
That is not how roll forming works. All of the factories within a 40-mile radius from here, I text with on a regular basis. We're all friends with each other. When there's an issue on someone's machine, we scratch each other's backs. For example, for this hotel that we're getting ready to build, the only reason we're able to meet the production timelines is because I'm stretching it across 3 factories, which makes it so I'm also able to look in the back of our shop, see our 3 machines, and then go over to our buddy's shop down the street. He has 2 more. Go to our other buddy up in Central California. He has 2 more. So suddenly now we're sitting here with 7 machines that we're able to produce off of instead of just our 3. And then the other added benefit here is that all of us have different profile sizes.
Yes.
So none of us are competing on the same line item together. So at no point do we see each other as competition to each other, especially since we're all going after our own different markets.
I love that.
So that's the one thing about the roll forming world, at least so far, and the level of impaction that it's at so far, is that there isn't this like cutthroat competition going on.
No. So instead of getting a bigger slice of the same pie, you guys are going after different pies.
Yep. I mean, we're kind of doing both.
Yeah.
We're going and getting our own pies, and then we're also going like, hey, here's this giant pie the size of the room. If we split this a third, it's still bigger than everything we were doing this year. Okay. So I'll take my third, you take your third, you take your third, and together we're all going to get fat and happy. And if there's an issue, well, now there's 3 times the amount of brain power solving the issue.
You need to work together to grow it, to build better. And that's what you guys are doing.
Absolutely. They say that construction industry will only embrace new technology if you have a 10x improvement. You can't be twice as good. It can't be 3 times as good. It has to be 10 times better because there's so much risk. There's so much liability. There's so many moving parts that if we're going to shake something, at least even a little bit, it best be better. And with the roll forming and the steel framing, we're proving that. At the end of this year, we're going to be putting the steel framing on shake tables down in San Diego and up in Fresno. So we're going to be able to show again in high definition, this is exactly how the framing works. In partnership with Cal Poly Pomona, they're going to bring some sensors that we're able to put onto the steel framing so we can show how the energy is going through the studs and how it's transferring from floor to floor to floor. So then we can actually, again, engineer a better building. So as you say, we can build better.
Whoa.
Because the biggest thing holding us back right now is engineering.
Okay.
So if we can prove what the machines can actually do on paper, then that means we can build more efficiently, which then lowers the costs, which then will increase volume, which then again gives us all more pies.
Okay. That's great. So basically the growth is just get more pies.
Yep. We're empire building around here. But I don't know if you noticed that the spacing of the machines between the wall and the column is perfectly set up for the 5600 to get dropped in right next to the two 3200s. There's already a breaker in the panel for it. I have conduits already ran for it. Like, all I need you guys to do is give me a great deal on that 5600 and it'll be back there.
And that's caught on camera.
Yes, it is.
Michael, it's been a real pleasure. I just enjoy speaking to you because of the energy and the drive that you have and just being willing to learn and being willing to fail. I think that's remarkable because a lot of people in the industry are scared to try something new, and that's why they're stuck. They're stuck in mud. Whereas you guys is like, we don't know anything, we're just going to learn. That's been such a pleasure.
Of
That's
course.
a wrap, Michael. Thank you very much. This has been great.